Now, this is a wild doubleheader on the Supreme Court. US news is so interesting, bro. So, in a separate case involving the Federal Trade Commission, the court actually did shred a 90-year-old precedent. Is a precedent giving the president the power to fire bosses at almost every independent agency at will. But when it came to the Federal Reserve, Justice John Roberts and Justice Barrett Kavanaugh crossed over to join the liberals. They explicitly told the White House to get their hands off the Fed. So to understand why this is a massive deal, we have to talk about what an independent agency actually is, okay? Normally, cabinet heads like the Secretary of State serve at the pleasure of the president. If the president doesn't like them, they are gone. And you all know how Trump is. I know how Trump is. Okay, at least I've seen signs. Independent agencies were created by Congress to be different. They were designed as expert panels, shielded from politics so they could do their jobs without worrying about election cycles. The most important one is the Federal Reserve. They control monetary policy, which is just a fancy term for managing the nation's money supply, setting interest rates, and controlling inflation. Now, that one is very interesting. I still don't know how they do it. Anyways, so why did this blow up into a Supreme Court showdown? This fight started back in August 2025 when Trump tried to oust Lisa Cook, who made history as the first black woman on the Fed board. The White House claimed it was over paperwork discrepancies on three personal home mortgages she took out years ago. Cook countersued, calling the mortgage issue a manufactured pretext, essentially a legal excuse to get her off the board because she wouldn't bend to political pressure. The tension has been boiling for months. It got so intense that Jerome Powell, back when he was still Fed chair, did something completely unheard of for a central banker. He actually showed up in person at the Supreme Court to oral arguments to signal that the very survival of the Fed was on the line. So who actually wins here? Ironically, it's you, the American. Yes, I mean, if the president could fire Fed governors like contestants on a reality show, interest rates would become an election tool. I mean, imagine a president forcing the Fed to slash interest rates right before voting day to make the economy feel artificially hot, even if it triggers massive runaway inflation 6 months later. This is literally what's happening in South Africa when before election or during the election cycle, we have something called load shedding. Load shedding is basically a perfectly orchestrated symphony. You know what I'm saying? Okay, sorry. It's basically when they shut down the national grid, when they shut down electricity systematically for regions, different regions across the country, because of what? Or an overload in the system. You know how it is, how stuff seemingly seems to get cheaper, how stuff seems to be going well, before election, so you can vote for a particular person. What's happening right now is anti-immigrant protest. You all may have seen this or heard about this. This literally makes me wonder how things would have been if I was actually from a different country, you know what I mean? And if I actually had a home to actually go to, because I would literally be anywhere else right now. But anyways, by preserving the Fed's independence, Supreme Court ensure that mortgage rates, credit card interest, and the price of your groceries are still handled by economists looking at data, not politicians looking at poll numbers. So what happens next is an incredible game of musical chairs in Washington. Lisa Cook keeps her seat while her full lawsuit plays out. Meanwhile, the Fed is entering a brand new era under its new chair, Kevin Warsh. But remember Jerome Powell, though, we shouldn't forget him. Even though his term as chair ended, he is staying on the board as a regular governor until 2028. And he's openly fighting a DOJ criminal investigation into a Fed building renovation, calling it an intimidation tactic. The White House and the Fed are going to be locked in a room together, and the tension is going to be crazy for sure, especially if it involves Trump and his administration. This is what people are missing today about this whole chaos. By sacrificing other independent agencies, by protecting the Fed, the Supreme Court made a profound statement about how America works. They essentially ruled that while the president can control the enforcement of laws, the central bank isn't just another government agency, it is the bedrock of global financial stability. The court effectively decided that a president can rewrite the rules of federal regulation, but nobody gets to mess with the physics of the US dollar. Remember when I talked about that decentralized democracy in the US? It's so interesting. So interesting.